Alright, what is going on, guys? Crypto Mac here, bringing you guys another crypto video. Today we're going to take a look at Sandbox. We haven't done a video on this for, I think, like a day or two, so not too long. But obviously, crypto market as a whole has had a massive correction. Obviously, Bitcoin's down to 47,000. There's a lot going on. So I thought I'd do an update video on Sand, give my opinion on what's happened and like what this means for Sand moving forward. So I just want to say this is not financial advice, so please do your own research. If we look at it straight away, we can see from the past it's only been about 2 weeks. We've been in a downtrend for about 2 weeks, which is fine. We can see there's a line here. We're kind of on right now. So we could see some support as of its current price. Something to wait and see. But overall, I think this is fine for Sand. I mean, here's what we need to look at. Like, Sand has had a massive move since October, which isn't even that far long ago, right? Like, if we look at when it really pumped, late October, it's like start of November. We're talking a month and 2 weeks, a month and like a week. We had a first move, which is 347%. That's no joke. Then consolidation for not even that long of a period, about a month, and then another move. So from the bottom, we're talking about nearly 10x, right? Or you can say a 10x. 10x move, and the biggest correction we saw a few, to be honest. We saw a few corrections, but you've still got to look at the fact that it was a 10x move, and these moves can't just go forever. So we saw a correction here. This was 40%, which is pretty significant. Another 40% correction, and well, now from our high at $8.48, we've seen a 50% move if you take it from that wick, which is fine. So that's a 50% move, and to the current price now, and we've been heading down the past few hours, past 12 hours. We're now at a 43% move downwards at $4.77. So, well, what does this mean? A 50% move is, in my opinion, enough of a correction to say that now we can start a move up and start an uptrend. Now, is it guaranteed? Absolutely not. We could be going lower. I mean, I said in the recent video, before this like dump happened, we could see us go as low as like this line down here, which would be a really big correction, and 60-70%, and see support on this line. That's something to consider that we could happen. As I said, it's going to be dependent on Bitcoin. I always say it, and you can see, the entire market dumped. Even Sandbox, which kind of has been outperforming Bitcoin and doing its own thing, but it couldn't hold up, and it hasn't dumped that hard as well. Is the other thing to consider. The other thing we notice is these kind of descending channels are forming as well, which I've been talking about, all these falling wedges, which have always been in, and they're kind of still forming. A falling wedge or a descending channel, whatever you prefer. Obviously a wedge is when they're not parallel, they get closer. But they're both bullish formations, which is the important thing. And we can see it happens right now. Currently we're on this line. So, like, I can't tell you that we're going to break out to the upside and start a move back up. Like, I just can't say that. Like, no one knows what's going to happen in the short term, and realistically we should be looking at the Bitcoin chart, see what Bitcoin's going to do. But I'm still very bullish on Sand as a project as a whole. And I think it could definitely, when we get back up to this level of, $8.50, which would be a 2x from where it's at, back up to this level and just go higher, I guess, is definitely a potential on them. The only case I would see Sand not heading back up is if the market cycle is done and Bitcoin decides to go even lower into the 30,000s or 20,000s and sit there for, the 2 or 3 year bear market. Well, then we might not see Sand get back up to these levels at that point. Sand might have a big dump as well, as the entire market would, because that's just kind of how it is. Another thing to look at with Sand is this kind of falling wedge it's in, which is a bit of a bigger one than we've been looking at. So it's a falling wedge. It's not the most perfect one, and obviously we kind of need to disregard this wick, which, it's up to you if you want to do that. But this is a falling wedge I'm just going to look at. Obviously, it seems like we're coming down to test some support around $4.60. If we break through, then I'll just probably delete this wedge, remove the lines, and say it's invalid. But for the moment, like, we saw a candle here on this line here. So, I mean, we could hold this as support, bounce off, and if we do that, then I'd say this wedge is kind of valid. And maybe we'll just like kind of head down for the next couple of weeks before we see a breakout. And it could go longer, 2 or 3 weeks. Again, depends what Bitcoin's going to do. But we could get a breakout from here and maybe start to head back up and you know, if the bull market isn't finished and Bitcoin starts to head back up, then, you know, we can see a breakout and things could be, well, clear skies ahead, you might say, right? If we get a breakout over here around $5, head back up. It says the target would be like $7 from that. And I mean, realistically, like if Bitcoin gets back above 50K and then heads towards 55, 60,000, we could easily see Sand hit this. And Bitcoin get back to 50K, it could happen overnight. And then over the next week or two, get to like maybe 55,000, and then, I mean, maybe over the next month, 2 months, get to 60, 65, 70,000, which would then indicate that the market cycle's not finished and that we're probably going to have a bit of a good run for Bitcoin. But at the moment, things do seem pretty somewhat bearish. Just look at Bitcoin. I mean, I'll go to the log graph. So this was the line we thought we were going to hold, which we did. We held. You can see 1, 2, 3 points. I've been talking about this for a while, and then obviously we broke through. You can see we actually had, seems like a bit of resistance, support here. Not much, not really, to be honest. We kind of just broke straight through, big wick down. Bitcoin went as low as 42,500 according to this chart, which is pretty low. Come up and now kind of consolidating, which is a bit ugly. I've been talking a lot about bull flags lately. Well, we could be on for a ugly bear flag, to be honest. I mean, you could draw something like this, depending on which way you want to draw it. And then just say, well, we'll consolidate before we head lower, down at 40,000. That's where things can get really, really, really bad, and the market cycle could be finished. My opinion, which, as I said, is not financial advice, and like I can't say what's going to happen. I can't be too deterministic and say, oh, the bull market's not finished. But in my opinion, the market cycle is not finished, right? And I think the other thing to consider is, well, Bitcoin's had a pretty good run. If you look from back here, 70% move from here, and from the bottom is over a 130% move. So we were kind of due for a big correction, especially if you look at this kind of leg here. There's not much of a correction. There wasn't much of a correction anywhere. So something like this, a 40% correction was probably due. And if you look at the 2017 market cycle, we had 6, 7 between like 30 and 40% corrections. And so if this is it, we just see this 39% correction. Well, as I said, that's like enough to say, okay, well, we've had a big correction. Now we can start another move up. And it was just a big correction, right? It was just one that caught a lot of people off guard, I guess. We saw a 25% one here, so it's a bit bigger than that. But coming off that, like you can see, it's a pretty big move we saw, which took place over this period here. Was 63% move over 20 days. 63% over 20 days. That means 63% is up here. Let's go to 20 days. Somewhere, let's just say right there. That has us at 77,000 by 26th of December, right? Basically Christmas Day. Christmas Day, you could be waking up to 77,000 if this were to play out again. And again, we're starting at a higher level, so it's not as easy to reach that. But it's just showing like how even though we had this big parabolic move down over the past few days, that we can see that move back up. Like we can see parabolic moves up. As we saw here, like a nice parabolic move. We zoom in here. So a pretty parabolic move here, consolidated, and then again went up. On the flip side, you can see what happened here could be playing out in the opposite here, right? So this was, we had a nice move up, consolidated, and then went again. This might be parabolic move down, consolidate, parabolic move down and go lower. As for Sand, you guys came in for Sand, not Bitcoin, but as I said, like Bitcoin predicts the market pretty heavily. So it is Ethereum though, like Ethereum can definitely influence the market quite a lot, and Ethereum's held up pretty well, which is important to know. Like Ethereum has held up pretty well at $3,900, very good price. But as I said for Sand, the very short term, I cannot tell you what's going to happen. As I said, it's still forming these kind of descending channels, falling wedges, which is, in my opinion, bullish. I think that's actually good. All things considered, like we've had a big correction. And it's not just a straight dump like Bitcoin was. It's kind of forming these wedges, which is fine. Slow moves down. They're, in my opinion, very bullish. And it could indicate they're going to start another move up. So we'll watch Bitcoin over the next, I'll be watching it very closely. The next day, 2 days. I'll probably do another video tomorrow on Sandbox maybe. But yeah, I'll be watching it very closely and just checking just how it's performing. And, you know, if we break to the downside of this descending channel, then as I said, we could go as low as like $2, $3 down here and test some lines of support down there. But I'm saying if the market cycle is not finished and it might take a month or two to get back into like 60K region, which would indicate that likely the market cycle isn't done. And to actually state the market cycle isn't done, we have to put in a new all-time high for Bitcoin. So we'd have to break 69,000 to show that we haven't, that the market cycle isn't done. If not, then that is our peak right here, 69K. Just shy of it, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, if that happens, if we can go back up to these levels over the next month, 2 months, 3 months, which could happen if you a believer in like lengthening cycles, which we've seen through the past bull markets, lengthening cycles, which means the market cycle might not be finished, and this is simply just a big pullback, then we can see Sand, as I say, get back up to these levels, and the NFT space is continuing to grow. So Sandbox could head higher to pass these levels and beyond. That's like the bullish case. The bearish case is that the market cycle's finished and Sand decides to just like kind of dump. So as I said, I'll be watching it pretty closely. Let me know what you think Sand's gonna do. Very keen to see what everyone has to say. Please like the video, comment, subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed, and I'll see you later, guys. Enjoy.